having shown to Arjuna the nature of Ishvara, Lord Krishna says that there are some people who may not ever know the nature or even will not accept the presence of Ishvara, the cause of the universe. But there are also others who have some idea about the cause of the universe and they relate to me differently. To the cause of the, me means the cause of the universe differently. And what are these four things that we will see? Chaturvida bhajante mam jana sukrutino juda ato jigna suratharthi jnani cha paratarshava. So here he says there are four types of people who relate to the cause of the universe. There are four types. What are they? Artharthi, Artaha, Jignasuhu and Jnani. Who are these people? The first one, here he says Artaha. Who is Artaha? That means when everything in your life is going well, oh, I'm great, I did it. But when there is a crisis in your life, then, oh, please help me. That means that you remember the cause, Ishvara, only in times of trouble. So this person who remembers Ishvara, the cause of the universe, only in times of trouble is what Arti. Arti is the name. Artharthi. Who is Artharthi? Artharthi is slightly different, and the Artharthi is the one who engages in many different pursuits of life. But in any pursuit of your life, you can make all the efforts, but ultimately, do you have control over the result of your action? Whether you will get what you want or not? Not. So this is why they use what? Prayer. You do all your actions and then what? For things that there is a one always uncertain part, whether you don't know what the outcome is going to be. And in order to have some kind of a result in your favor, you pray. This person is called Artharthi. So that means you want money, wonderful. But you do all, you work hard, you start your ventures, you do all of that. But you know that if I do all of that, like so many people start up what? They start a startup company. That is in fashion now, in Silicon Valley, in India, everywhere. Startups. Nobody wants to work for anybody else. And in this startup, there is a big risk, right? Some startups, you become millionaire when you are 20, 30 years old. If your company goes public and you start floating shares, you become huge. But the startup can also what? Wind up. So that means, hey, what makes a difference between wind up and becoming a millionaire? So that means, in addition to your effort and skills and everything else, there is something which we call some daivam. Daivam is required, some grace is required. And how do you, grace doesn't just come dropping. You have to, what? The action has what? Result. Karma has karma phala. The prayer is also an action, and the result of prayer is what we call grace. You have to perform an action. The action is because prayer, nobody has asked you to pray. You have to again use your free will to pray. And every time you use your free will to make a choice of action, there has to be a corresponding result. You can't have action without result, because this is a cause and effect relationship. So the result of prayer is called the grace. And this is how what you do is you increase the probability of your success. So that means in any venture you undertake, you can do everything that you have to do, but you also can pray to increase the chances of your getting it. Because prayer is not the only variable which is going to decide whether you get it or not, but it is certainly one of the variables. Because it will get you punya. The act of prayer is an act of free will. And every action must have result. This is what we call laws of cause and effect. So this is this person who uses the cause of the uses prayers to get what one wants in life is called arthati. Now there is a third kind of a person who relates to the cause of the universe, who says, hey, what is this entity that I am praying to? I want to know the nature of this entity. This is called jignasu, where you don't just want to pray to Ishvara, you want to know the nature of Ishvara. Jignasu, natum ichu. And then there is a fourth category, and that is what he says, the jnani. Jnani means the one who knows the reality. The one who knows the reality is also a bhakta. Now you can ask the question, hey, in the vision of non-duality, why should I pray to anybody else? Many people ask these questions. So this is why you have to understand the relationship between your true nature, awareness and Ishvara. Very important. That is the culmination of teaching of Vedanta. Until now, what we have done and what Lord Krishna has done is put different parts. Now they all have to come together to make one coherent vision. So the final question that Vedanta makes you raise and answer, and that is, what is my relationship with Ishvara? Well, it depends which standpoint you are talking about. If you are talking about you as an individual, the person, me, I, this little individual, then who are you? You have Narayana came during the break, and he says, hey, there is a huge difference between us and Ishvara. Yes, absolutely true. You are, if you're talking about you as an individual, you are what? Alpajnaha, alpashaktima. What does that mean? You have little knowledge and you have little power. The watch that we make is insignificant compared to the planets and the galaxies. So you can't start thinking, I'm Ishvara. So therefore, we are as individuals, alpajnaha, alpashaktima. Limited knowledge, limited power. Ishvara, on the other hand, is what? All knowledge and all power. And the magnitude of that power you can't even compare, and knowledge you can't even compare. This is why you as an individual can't have all knowledge. It's impossible. Otherwise, you would know everything. If I tell you, okay, between the Industrial Revolution and global warming, describe me each event. Because all knowledge and all power connects all those events to give you the result. Whereas your ability to find 5 causes, you have to struggle. Therefore, you can't compare the magnitude of knowledge. It's simply overwhelming for a human buddhi. So, all knowledge and all power, from which the whole universe comes, by which the whole universe is sustained, unto which the whole universe resolves, and again next manifestation starts. That is, it's just... Now, who is this Gnani? Who is this a person who knows the truth? The person who knows the truth knows one's identity with Ishvara. What? How is that possible? How can I ever be equated to Ishvara? So that means you have an answer? Yes.
I have an answer.
You have an answer, but you want to hear from me. Okay. Okay. In order to answer this question, if I ask you, what is the relationship between the wave and the ocean?
The wave is a part of the ocean.
Excellent. So that means, very good. So that means if you think that I am this little individual with my little knowledge and my little power, that knowledge and power itself that I have been given itself is within possibility of Ishvara. So in that case, I can say I am part of what? My body is part of intelligent design. My mind and its possibilities is also part of the intelligent design. So if your I is in the individual, you can say, I am part of one of the manifestations of Ishvara. True. But the Vedanta doesn't end there. Because you are just one manifestation, Ishvara is all manifestations. But Vedanta doesn't end there, because there is one more relationship between wave and ocean. Huh?
The essence is water.
Excellent. Who said it? Who? I want to hear. See who? Who said it?
I said it and they said
Okay. No. Many people said it. Okay. Now, if you shift your standpoint to not the form water, form wave and form ocean, and if you shift your understanding to water, what is the relationship between wave and the ocean?
It's the same.
It's the same. Wave is nothing but water. You take out water from the wave, what will remain? Nothing. Ocean is a much bigger entity compared to wave. True, nobody is denying that. If you begin to think that one little wave is the ocean, you need to go to mental hospital. But this big entity, ocean, which contains not only one wave, but thousands of waves of the past, of the present, of the future. From this big entity ocean, if I take out water, what will remain? Nothing. If you understand that, where is the difference? Tell me, where is the difference? The difference is in the form. The form wave is very different from form ocean. True. But when you shift to the content, there is an equation. because it is almost like an equation. Wave is equal to ocean, right? How is it possible? They look very different. You have to solve the equation. The left side of equation is wave, and you have to say what this wave is nothing but water. And the right side of equation is what? Ocean. And you have to solve this, and you have to say the ocean is also nothing but water. Then what you have? Water is equal to water. This water is equal to water, does it change the fact that wave and ocean are different entities? They are in the sense of the form. In Sanskrit we call upadhi. Two different upadhis of one reality. The water has two upadhis. One is a wave upadhi, the other one is ocean upadhi. Appearances. You can't say the appearances are equal. Not. Wave has a very different dimensions, and the water is very big. But at the level of water, there is no difference whatsoever. It's H2O, and this is also H2O. Let's look at this same analogy and look at Jiva and Ishvara. Jiva, the individual. We started by what? Me as the body and mind. Then we said, no, this is not me, this is not me, this is not me. Karan Sharira is also not me. What did we come to? What did we come to as our true nature? The first verses of the Gita. Yesterday only we did it. Satchidananda. We came to that. That awareness which has no limitation, which is what? Truth of time, space, without attributes. So we solved what? The left side of the equation. From the individual we came to the truth, which is what? The awareness which has no limitation. Now, we look at the right side of the equation and we say there is a huge entity there which is all knowledge and all power. Now, I need to answer her question. What is the relationship between, on the left side of the equation we came to a solution which is awareness, and on the right side we have all knowledge and all power. We need to ask ourselves, what is the relationship between all knowledge and all power and awareness?
I think compared to the waves in the ocean, the wave, the ocean contains the wave.
Yeah, that we saw.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like Jiva and
yeah, the wave
knowledge.
contains, that's okay, but that makes you only part of bigger design. Here we are talking at the level of water.
Our knowledge and our power can not exist without awareness, so it's Nitya and awareness is Satya.
Wow. Impressed. The relationship is exactly the same. The all knowledge and all power, which is much bigger, cannot exist. Now see, can it exist without awareness? No. But does awareness need all knowledge and all power for its existence? So that means even this much bigger entity, which is Ishvara, also has the same truth as my truth. Where? At the level of Satchit Ananda. So that means the wave can say, I am wave, and the ocean can say what? I am ocean, for example. In the wave and ocean, there is a difference, the difference in upadhi, the appearance. But what is common is I am. and that I am is water. Same. Jiva, a little individual. Ishvara, the all knowledge and all power. Both these entities, the truth of both the entities is what? Satchidananda. Ishvara knows it, you don't know it. Ishvara has a capacity, this Maya has a capacity to project the universe. And within this projection of the universe, it has capacity to veil the knowledge from you. So from the standpoint of Ishvara, it is the capacity. And from the standpoint of we, the individual, it is what? Ignorance. It's a veiling capacity. But the veiling capacity can be lifted by what? Knowledge. If somebody shows you, you can understand it. Who can show? Only one who has what? The veiling capacity. The veiling capacity belongs to Ishvara. The capacity to lift the veil also belongs to where? Ishvara. This is why this whole teaching comes from Ishvara. Ishvara, through these books of Vedas and Upanishads, show you how Ishvara and you are identical. So that means that this is what we call the final resolution of equation. Now, a wise person who understands that, a wise wave who understands that I am water and ocean is also water, will it cease to relate to the ocean? No. In fact, it will be so grateful that I was under such a spell of ignorance which led me to believe that I was isolated, I was struggling in life, I was stuck with sorrows and fears and all kinds of apprehensions and frustration. And somewhere along, somebody came and started lifting my veils of ignorance and making me see the whole world in a different light. And not only made me see the whole world in different light, but ultimately made me realize that all that is here is one reality, which is awareness. And the same awareness, when you see it from the standpoint of its capacity to manifest the universe, the all knowledge and all power with which it has the capacity to manifest the universe, the same awareness gets what? Different name, and that is what? Maya. The same all knowledge and all power, which manifests as all these different names and forms, gets yet another name. What is that yet another name? Ishvara. Within this manifestation, the arrangement is such that each one of us don't know this reality. So we live under the influence of ignorance. What is the name? Jiva. Vision of non-duality. Tattvamasi. You are that. These are all different phenomena existing within one reality. The ultimate is Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam, Brahma. The same reality seen from different possibilities, it is given different names. So that's why right now, please understand, you look at yourself. You will find everything here now, one entity. You have a form, and that form, if you believe that I am that form, you are what? Jiva. Where there is Jiva, there exactly there is Ishvara, because there is this intelligent design which gives rise to the form, which gives rise to the mind. Where there is Jiva, that's exactly where there is Ishvara. And as you begin to understand your relationship with the body and mind, you also see what? That there is one awareness which remains what? Always present, in whose presence everything is changing. Anywhere you look into in the creation, you will find all three. Like you take anything in any wave in the ocean, you will find three things. You will find the wave, you will find the ocean. Where there is wave, that's exactly where there is ocean. And where there is ocean, there is water. Non-duality. What will you stay away from? What will you be detached from? All that is here is one. So, this is what the Gnani knows. And the wise person knows it, but the wise person is so grateful to the presence of Ishvara. Without the presence of Ishvara, there was no possibility of lifting the ignorance. For through this knowledge, showing oneself the identity between oneself and Ishvara. You think the person will cease to be a bhakta? The wise person will be a highly enlightened bhakta. This is why Adi Shankaracharya, who writes these commentaries on Bhagavad Gita and all these Upanishads, which is showing you non-duality, also writes Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam Mudhamate. He goes to Mukambika and does prayers for years. Goes to Kedar,
Composes Saundarya Lahari.
Composes Saundarya Lahari. Gnani is also a bhakta who has been blessed by Ishvara with this knowledge. Because of the effort of the Gnani to first align to the laws of Ishvara and grow as an individual. He's been blessed. So therefore, the enlightened wave doesn't cease to have relationship with the ocean. The enlightened wave is so deeply connected to the ocean that the ocean reveals the truth that I am also water and you are also water. So this is what Ajnani is. Remains a bhakta. Now, next. Abrahma bhuvana lokaha punaravartino juna mamupetya tu kaunteya punarjanmana vidyate. So, what he says is, everybody else who hasn't understood this final equation between oneself and Ishvara are still under the influence of ignorance. And as long as you are within the influence of ignorance, you are subject to karma. Because you then think you are this entity. And as long as you are subject to karma, there is punaravriti. You keep coming back and back and back. And even if the entire universe becomes unmanifest, your account remains. So there is no hope that with the resolution of the universe, at least I'll get moksha. No way. You'll again come back. Your account remains and again you'll take the different forms. So therefore, here he says that if you leave from this world, not solving this equation, then what? Punaravritti. Coming and coming and coming. Again and again and again. And why not? If you have started your journey, then if you have already begun to come to this knowledge and improve and change, life will become easier and easier and easier. That is the promise of the Lord Krishna. And next birth, you will be reconnected to this knowledge. If you have started.
That's very good news, isn't it?
If you have not started in this lifetime, then you can next life you can be born as a frog. Because in your karma, there are so many infinite karmas. And there is no guarantee that you will be born as a human being. But once you start this knowledge, then you will be reconnected again and again till you get it. So this is what he says, right? So, but he says that all these, everything is where punaravritti, but mam upetya tu kaunteya punarjanma na vidyate. Once you gain me, once you know your identity with Ishvara, then there is no coming back. Why is there no coming back? Because awareness doesn't come and go. It is the only thing which doesn't come and go. Everything else comes and goes. So, please understand, moksha does not mean you cease to exist. Moksha means you understand, I am awareness which never can be displaced by anything. You remain as awareness which is limitless. You don't come back connected to one given body and mind. That is called moksha. Now, here he says the next verse. Yat yat vibhudimat sattvam Srimadurjitameva va tattadeva vakachatvam mamate jomsha sambhavam. It's beautiful. He says now, we are all not used to seeing Ishvara everywhere, right? Is anybody used to that? Not really. Until you come to Vedanta, how do we generally, we only see objects, we see things. You're not used to seeing Ishvara everywhere. So now you have to train your mind to see Ishvara everywhere. How will you do it? He says, Yatyat vibhuti matsattva. Wherever you see something beautiful, a sunrise, a sunset, a child laughing, beautiful flowers blooming, begin to see it all as my manifestation. Mama tejomsha sambhavam. It's not whole of me, but it is what? One little manifestation of me. Then there is magic in that. All these people who come to Rishikesh, they see the kind of relationship people have with Ganga. It's not just one river. People may throw garbage and all, that's okay. I mean, that is not okay. But they have a certain relationship. So when they come here, they whichever river there is, they say, oh, this is Ganga. That is beautiful. The river can be just seen as just some river, or you can have that relationship with that river. See the beauty. And not just see the beauty, but see within that beauty the work of intelligent design. Through that river, connect to Ishvara, which makes the river what it is. Look at the sun. Either you can look at the sun as nothing but bunch of hydrogen atoms, or you can see it as what? Manifestation of intelligent design, which gives you so much. So that means this is the way you begin to convert your lonely, isolated mind into the mind which is connecting to the presence, all-pervading presence of Ishvara. And by doing so, what you will also do is do a major transformation. And that is that with reference to flowers and mountains and trees and skies, it's easy to relate. But when you see a human being, and let's say you want to be famous in one thing, let's say music, pianist, and you see your friend excelling there, very often when somebody else is doing better than you, instead of being happy for that person, it creates what? Jealousy. That mind is a very small mind. And you have to convert and you have to become big. You can't get limitlessness with that small mind, all distorted mind. So therefore, now what you have to do is, where you saw jealousy, you have to convert it into what? The glory manifestation of Ishvara. That this person has this talent is wonderful. That's when you begin to be happy with others' happiness. Others' happiness doesn't create jealousy in you. Others' success doesn't create smallness in you. You are able to enjoy not only the forces, you are able to enjoy human beings. And there is no sense of rivalry when you deal with other human beings. You are not in competition with anybody else. So this is where you have to begin to see, wherever you see any vibhuti, wherever you see any beauty, think about Ishvara. You have a question?
Yeah, excuse me.
No, please, I don't know. Why should you be? You have no reason to be.
So if we have the intelligent design,
Yes.
there are many possibilities to create things.
Yes.
So, but I'm listening and I hear you say Vedanta is the only choice. Is there other possibilities in the world who have the same solution than you?
What?
Okay.
Okay. No. Ask again. No, don't be afraid. Ask.
I'm asking myself
Yes.
if the solution that we get out of the going on in the circle again and again and again. So, and you told with your science, you show us a way to get out.
Okay.
So if we have the intelligent design on the other side, is there any other which is similar to your sign?
Oh. You mean to say without this teaching can you get out? Is that
No.
your question?
That's not the question.
Then?
Is there another teaching in
There's
the world?
another teaching in this world. See, if there is any other teaching in the world, see, there are a lot of teachings in the world
Yes.
which actually indicate oneness. Lot. For example, there is what they call shamanism, I don't know, shamanism, and there are a lot of, in fact, even in Europe, somebody told me in the previous retreat that there was this whole thought which was talking about oneness. With the coming of all these some forms of Christianity, it all got a little displaced. Now, one thing, even if, for example, the people have some insight into oneness, what happens is, it's not just enough for me to tell you all that is here is one. Because it's inspiring, it is beautiful, but you don't still know exactly how. So therefore, what this carries with it is a very sophisticated teaching tradition, where it doesn't become just some kind of a sitting and some mystical experience.
Okay, it's not.
It's not something that, exactly, it's not like, oh, you have to some experience. What are you going to experience? Experience can only be of objects. This is how the world is designed. So therefore, this methodology makes it real for you, makes you see this reality. And you may have insight into the, in fact, oneness is the reality. So therefore, when teacher starts talking about oneness, it resonates very deep into a human psyche, because that is the truth. Knowingly or unknowingly, it stirs something in you. If you are not totally damaged, and if you are totally closed with your own ideas, you may not get attracted. But if you are relatively a human being who's clean and healthy, and it will resonate. But the beauty is that there is this whole methodology which makes you see here and now how it is true. You don't need to change anything. So that's why it is so human. Okay. Now, the next verse. Yetu sarvani karmani mai sanyasya matparaha ananyenaiva yogena mamyayanta upasate. So that means there is another way that you can bring Ishvara in your life. One is what, wherever you see some glory, you can begin to see it as manifestation of this intelligent design. The second way that you can bring Ishvara in your life is through your actions. Yetu sarvani karmani mai sanyasya matparaha. When your actions, see, this dharma is one of the manifestations of this intelligent design. Dharma means your ability to discern the fact that there is a law which governs yours and my interaction. I can't just come and slap you and go away and say, oh, I feel like doing it. Can't do it. That's why most of the time nobody does it. Because everybody knows this is not to be done. We think that we learned it from our parents, and we think that we learned it from our religion. We think that we learned it from somewhere, a society. Actually, it is part of what? Your human psyche. Everybody is born with it. And that is part of intelligent design. And therefore, if you begin to honor that, you are in touch with Ishvara. You are in touch with intelligent design. So that means you can bring in Ishvara in your life also what? Through your actions. When your actions are noble, when you are considerate towards others, when you become a contributor, you begin to have wider perspective than just your narrowly defined self-interest. You are connecting to Ishvara. Ishvara in form of dharma. The intelligent design in form of dharma. So that means your life, before you become jnani, the wise person who knows the nature of Ishvara, you have to bring in Ishvara in your life at all these levels. By aligning to all the different manifestations and different laws. All the laws are different manifestations of Ishvara. So this is what he says, Ananye naiva yogena mam dhyayanta upasate. Now, one thing, that the bhakti, if it is, please understand, if you have this relationship with Ishvara, and you begin to do things which are in keeping with what you understand to be right. But if you think that Ishvara is one entity who is, like Gudrun told me in my other retreat, it seems like Ishvara is like one this, authority, that big uncle who's governing the laws and being strict, this authority. And this is where that's why he uses the word Ananye Naiva Yogena. Please don't imagine Ishvara as some external entity, some uncle who is watching over you with some stick. And this is true because so many people's vision of Ishvara is like that. There is so much fear, which is all relationship to Ishvara is all based on fear and rules. If you do this, I'll punish you. If you don't come to me, you are a sinner. So that means this is not the relationship we are talking about. We are talking about Ananya relationship. Ananya relationship means what? That all that is here is Ishvara. And I am also manifestation of Ishvara. And if I do something which is enhancing the quality of the universe, I get rewarded in the process. And if I disturb the design, then I have to face the consequences. If with this vision I begin to, and anything that comes to me is a result of causes within causes within causes which are infallible, then what happens is, there is at no point you will feel I am doing all these good things and I am not rewarded for it. That feeling has to go. Otherwise what will happen is, Ishvara will remain with you till everything goes well for you. The minute it doesn't go well, Ishvara is what? So I know somebody, he's a big businessman, and he used to go to this temple in India which is very famous, Tirupati. I don't know if some of you know. And then his business went down. So then he says, why should I've been going and praying to this Ishvara, and he didn't even continue to give me wealth. Why should I care for it? So that means your connection with Ishvara will remain till everything happens according to your wishes. And when things don't happen according to your wishes, the same Ishvara becomes what? Useless for you. This is not duality. Whether things happen my way or things don't happen my way. Whether I get what I want or I don't get what I want. I'm never outside the intelligent design. Life is not treating me unfairly. Not only it is not treating me unfairly, the whole forces are designed to take care of you all the time. So therefore, this is what we call bhakti. And if I'm being taken care of all the time, then my responsibility is to give back. So this is how you begin to bring Ishvara in your life. Next. I have 4 more verses to go, and I have now, all these different growth frameworks that we have seen, there is one more growth framework that is given to us, and that is 3 gunas, and we will see that. Sattvam sukhe sanjayati rajah karmani bharata jnanamavritya tu tamaha pramade sanjayatyuta. Here, 3 gunas are talked about, and the gunas are what? Sattva, Rajas and Tamas. Now, every human being is a combination of 3 gunas. There is no human being who is only Sattva, there is no human being who is only Rajas, there is no human being who is only Tamas. We are all combination of all 3. So, we need to know what are these gunas, what is Sattva? So here he defines Sattva as any quality that Satyam Sukhe Sanjayati. Any quality which will make you a content, fulfilled, relatively, peaceful, thinking, clear, the person with clarity. That is what we call Sattva. The Sattva, please understand, it is not that only people who are highly sophisticated will only be Sattvic. So I do this exercise, I ask. So I say, okay, let's look at a very well accomplished doctor. Is he Sattvic, Rajasic or Tamasic?
It can be anything.
Excellent. It can be anything. We generally think that this accomplished doctor who is engaged in some research and some discoveries is only Sattvic. But it can be anything. Why? Because if this doctor's, it depends upon the intention of this doctor. Whatever research that the doctor does is for finding out things which will help the humanity to improve the health. This doctor is what? Sattvic. The same doctor is engaging in research and the whole focus is on, I want to become famous because of this discovery. Rajasic. And the same, not the same, any other doctor, the same doctor cannot have all three. So, if that other doctor is sometimes what prescribing, nowadays in India, the hospitals are becoming private. So the hospitals are becoming private means the doctors are paid according to the number of conversion. What is conversion? That people who come as outpatient, you have to convert them into inpatient. Because the minute you get admitted to the hospital, the revenues of the hospital go up tremendously. So it becomes profitable for the hospital. So that's why sometimes you go as an outpatient and the doctor knows that you don't have much, nothing, right? Nothing much. But he will still say, oh, I need to test this, I need to test this, I need to test this. So why don't you stay in the hospital for 2 days? What kind of a doctor is this? Tamas. Because dharma is sacrificed. So that means you can be anybody doing anything in this world. You don't have to, everybody doesn't have to become a priest. Everybody doesn't have to become a scientist or a doctor or a great artist or to be sattvic. You can be in any position if you change the attitude with which you perform your action. You can become sattvic. Like we saw in the case of the stone cutter. The stone cutter who was just saying, I can't stand this job and I'm waiting till I go home at 5. What is the attitude with this stone cutter doing the job? Tamas. The other stone cutter who says, I want to be the best stone cutter. Rajas. And the stone cutter who says, I want to participate in building a temple, which will give the opportunity for this and the next generations to relate to Ishvara. Same stone cutter is what? The others, if the stone cutter has this attitude, sattvic. So you can have a doctor who is tamasic, and you can have a stone cutter who is sattvic. It is all up to you what you want to do with your life and the attitudes that you want to cultivate. So this is what is another framework which helps you to grow, to become more and more sattvic. As you become more and more sattvic, what will happen is that there will be more and more sukha in your life. Sattva sukhe sanjayati. Life will become cheerful. Life will become light. You will begin to have good self-esteem, good self-worth. What will Rajas do? If you choose to be Rajasic, Karmani Bharata. You have got one prize, now you want second prize. Then you want to get Nobel Prize. So that means keep working more and more and more and more and more ambition. You want to become rich. What is rich itself is all relative. So if your focus is on what your narrowly defined success, what will it connect you to? More and more and more karma, more and more engagement. And Nana avrutyatu tamaha pramade sanjayatitaha. This tamasic attitude towards things that you do will make you lax, lazy, adharmic, So these are all the indicators. So that means that not only you want to become sattvic for the sake of becoming sattvic, but you want what? Relative happiness in your life, for which you need to become sattvic. This is the feedback system of the universe. The more you make effort towards your evolving yourself, more and more your life will become easy. That's why you have to see this pursuit as not difficult. The final goal may be not that easy. But every time you shift and you become a better person, there is the response from the universe. You will be blessed. Way before you gain the knowledge, life will become much easier and nicer. So, this is what Lord Krishna says. Next. Now, if you become more and more sattvic, then life will become easier and easier and easier. Then what you may start thinking is, the ultimate goal of life is to become what? More and more sattvic. So Lord Krishna reminds you, being sattvic is very important, but it is not the ultimate goal of life. So next. Na rupamasyeha tathopalabhyate nanto na chadirna cha sampratishtha ashvattamenam suvirudhamulam asanga shastrena dritena chitva. The ultimate, the purpose of life is to not just become more and more sattvic and enjoy easier and easier life, but to what? Get out of cycle of birth and death. So, in order to convey this idea, he uses an imagery of a tree. What is this imagery of a tree? He gives it a name, Ashwattha tree. Ashwattha tree means that the imagery gives Ashwattha tree. Ashwattha is banyan tree. What is this banyan tree? Banyan tree, how is it different from all other trees? It has multiple what? Yes, it has multiple trunks which actually become then roots. So every other tree has one root and one trunk. Banyan tree has multiple roots and multiple trunks. The branches themselves begin to go down and they become trunks. This is what he calls is samsara tree. What is samsara tree? You come to this world to exhaust some karmas which are in your causal body. As you begin to, the causal karma will give you different situations in life. But not only you have to go through those situations, you have to respond to those situations. So those situations, depending upon your response, again will give you what? The result. So that means you are stuck in this life of becoming. By the time you exhaust some past karma, you gain some new karma in this life. So your samsara tree keeps on expanding. Even if the universe becomes unmanifest, what will happen is the root will remain, the tree will disappear. So it will give rise to another tree when the manifestation comes. Your causal karma will remain. Now, as long as you are within the tree, even if you become more sattvic, you can relatively improve your life, but you still are stuck with what? The human body. Body means there is old age. Then there is death. Not only death of you, but death of others that you love. All the limitations. So that means you can relatively improve your life, but the afflictions you can't get rid of. And this is why as long as the afflictions remain, there is no lasting fulfillment. So that's why your ultimate goal is not to be what? More and more sattvic. Your ultimate goal is what? To cut the tree. Cut the samsara tree to get out of this cycle of birth and death. But how are you going to get out of this cycle of birth and death? By doing sattvic karma, because sattvic karma will keep you in samsara. It will just make your tree little more beautiful. It will give it nice fruits, nice flowers.
Golden tree.
Huh?
A golden tree.
Yeah, it will become golden tree, it will become beautiful. But you will not be able to eliminate. He says, the only way to get out of this tree is what? He uses the imagery of the tree. Begin to look into the truth of the tree. He'll say, na rupam asyeva tathopalabhyate. When you begin to inquire into the nature of the tree, you begin to ask a question, hey, what is this huge tree? Then you will have to say, tree is nothing but what? Right. Tree is nothing but what? Tree is nothing but the branches, the trunk, the fruit, the flower, everything which is put together, you give it a name called tree. Then the trunk itself is what? So many different what? Materials. Then atoms, then particles. So that means the tree which you cannot eliminate, when you begin to look into the truth of the tree itself disappears into Ishvara, the intelligent design. And that intelligent design itself depends upon what? This awareness. Same thing. This samsara which looks so difficult to cross, the only way to get out of it is what? Begin to ask into the truth of samsara, truth of the universe. The whole universe is nothing but manifestation of one intelligent design. So all that is here is only just one intelligent design which makes every form what it is. And the truth of that intelligent design is awareness. And that awareness is the nature of I am. That is the only way to get out of samsara. By being a good human being, by being a sattvic human being, you still remain what? Within samsara. But if you use your sattva to gain the knowledge of Atma, then it helps you to get out of the samsara tree. So Lord Krishna reminds you that yes, being sattvic is important, but not the ultimate goal of life. You use that sattvic mind to get out of samsara.
It is still a key.
That's the key, yes. But the key, the final key is the knowledge. To understand, na rupa masyeha tathopalabhyate. It doesn't exist. There is nacha sampratishtha. And this is why this ashwatha, you take it out from the root. The root of the whole life of becoming is avidya, ignorance of nature of I. And when you remove the ignorance with what? Asanga shastrena, with all the proper values, then what happens is the tree gets uprooted. Nice imaging. Now, the 24. So I have 2 more verses to go, and I have 5 minutes.
Yeah.
So, I may just go extend a little bit, but don't worry, if you want to go, you can go. I just, not much, I will not extend for too long. The 24th verse is Trividha bhavati shraddha dehinam sa svabhavaja satviki rajasi chaiva tamasi cheti tam shruno. So, just before this, Arjuna asks a question, and the question is that, okay, people who have come to Gita, people who have come to Vedanta, I can understand that they are kind of, now they have certain direction in their life. But there are so many other people who are living in their life, and they all have Shraddha. Shraddha means certain kind of value system, certain kind of conviction with which they live in this world. So how would you describe those people? Are they sattvic, rajasic or tamasic? Huh?
Reformed.
He knows, he reads the verses. So here he says, even if you have not come to Gita in this your lifetime, you can be sattvic, rajasic or tamasic. This is why we call it a universal philosophy. It is not like if you come here, you are saved or you are fine, and if you are not here, you are doomed. It's not like that. Even if you have not come to Gita in this lifetime, but even if there are so many human beings, as I just gave in the morning one example of Einstein, but there are so many human beings who are doing such wonderful job with so many other domains. Every domain there are people who are highly dedicated individuals, who give their life to the cause that they are working for. They are all sattvic people. You can't just dismiss them as, and those kind of people, if in any lifetime they come to Gita, I tell you, the knowledge will become much easier because they have preparedness. They may not have the preparedness in the traditional sense of, oh, I'm doing karma yoga. They may not use these terms, but they are doing it. They are dharmic people who care for others. There are so many people like that in this world. So they are sattvic. And within people who don't come to Gita, there are also people who are rajasic, only self-centered, thinking about their own accomplishments. There are those people also. The only drive that they have is for what? Self-fulfillment, self-glorification. You have those people also. And you have tamasic people also. They don't hesitate to what? Harm others or harm the nature or harm other living beings for their pleasures. So that means, and please understand, the minute you come to Gita also doesn't always mean that you are necessarily sattvic. If you come to Gita with this whole thirst for learning, and you are able to put aside all your whatever things and listen for love for truth, and you make necessary changes in yourself to prepare yourself for the truth, you are sattvic. If through Gita you want to become famous teacher, become well known, then it is what? Rajasic. And if you don't take sufficient care to learn the book properly, like Oleg was just telling me, the whole book of non-duality is converted into duality. that means that you yourself are little not taking enough care to learn what Gita is saying, but you propagate that message and add to the confusion of others. So therefore, there is no such categorization that if you come to Gita, you are sattvic, and if you don't come to Gita, you are what? You can be with Gita, you can be any of the three, and you can be outside, and you can be any of the three.
That's what she was thinking.
That's what you wanted to know. So therefore, your job is to become sattvic. Now that you have come to Gita, make use of this outstanding book to understand its meanings, its depth, its message, its vision, and try to incorporate it into your life. You will see where your life will take you. So, this is the message of the last verse. Sarvadharman parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja aham tva sarva papebhyah moksha ishyami ma shuchaha. Beautiful. So that means, here he is saying, Sarvadharman parityajya. This Gita is a book, he says, which has a key to your fulfillment. And what you are doing is searching for the fulfillment, all at wrong places, which leaves you not totally content. Sarva dharman parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja. Lord Krishna is not saying, oh, you leave everything else and come to me. This is the literal translation. He's saying, commit your life to the truth. And you begin to commit your life to the truth, then what happens is ahantva sarva papebhyah moksha ishyami ma shuchaha. If you commit your life to the truth, it starts with little truths. Little truths are aligning to dharma, taking care of your emotions, making your perspectives bigger. When things don't happen your way, don't get into this self-blame, self-criticism mode, victim mode. These are all little truths, which ultimately will take you to what? The finale, the final truth, which is your seeing your identity with Ishvara. So, and in that identity with Ishvara, there is your freedom, which you have been searching for, not in this lifetime, but lifetimes before. So, this is how the teaching ends. Now, what happens after the teaching ends, Lord Krishna tells Arjuna that now I have taught you what I have taught you. My job is over. Now you do what you think is right. Now, the whole ball is in Arjuna's court. Lord Krishna is not controlling Arjuna. I've done my job. What does Arjuna say? He says, I've tried to listen to your teaching with a lot of attention. And it seems to be that what you say is the right thing to be done. So I will do what I will do what needs to be done right now, and that is what? Engage in the war. Then Gita ends by, how did it start? Dhritarashtra asking Sanjaya what is happening in the battlefield. Gita ends with Sanjaya saying, coming back to Sanjaya, and he's saying, oh my God, I had this great fortune to what? See what is going on in the battlefield, and I heard the whole dialogue between Lord Krishna and Arjuna. I was blessed. I was not even there. The conversation was going on between Arjuna and Krishna. Sanjaya was sitting with Dhritarashtra in the palace, but he was given the capacity to hear this whole dialogue. He was given capacity to see what is going on in the battlefield. He happened to hear the whole dialogue. And he said that I feel so blessed to hear this dialogue. And then he says, wherever there is Krishna as a teacher, and wherever there is a student like Arjuna, this is where there is going to be victory. So, Gita ends with that. So, this whole teaching, the teacher plays as though the role of Krishna, and the student has to be as brilliant as Arjuna. And whenever these two come together, then there is victory. Knowledge will take place. So, this is the end. So, I will end. So I did finish 16. In time and space, which is relative. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat